How's it going, guys? Welcome to episode 82 of the Pixel Street Podcast, where each and every week we get together to talk about one of the things we love most, video games. I am your host for the week, John Hansen, who has been battling this cold for over the last week, so excuse my sickly voice and everything. But today I am joined by Connor. How's it going, Connor?
It's good. I'm not sick, so I'll just provide all the energy for both of us.
Alright, I am down for that. Joel Campos got a little too excited for the Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order release and was playing with a lightsaber and accidentally stabbed himself in the eye, so he's dead. But moving on to what we're talking about this week, we will be discussing Pokemon Sword and Shield, early reviews, and kind of the hate going around that game right now, the new Sonic the Hedgehog trailer, and our thoughts on disneyplus. It's a pretty slow week. Of course, we are recording this hours before XO19 happens, so obviously we won't know about that yet when you guys hear about this, so sorry, but we have work and stuff. We won't be able to record during that.
We have to adult.
Yeah, for sure. Before we get to that, though, you can find the Pixel Street Podcast on most podcast platforms on Fridays as well as on YouTube, and you can now watch the show directly on our Facebook group by searching for Pixel Street Podcast over there. We enjoyed having new people follow our content, and we hope to keep you around. With that in mind, we have decided to run another giveaway once we reach 100 followers on our Twitter. Still don't know what game we're running on that yet. We still have to get closer before we actually decide. But be sure to give us a follow at Pixel Street Pod on Twitter. Let's just get right into the new games we're talking about. But before we do that, Connor, I know you were saying that there's a new Halo announcement today.
There is some exciting stuff coming out of XO19 before it even kicks off. It looks like Halo Reach is going to be added to the Master Chief Collection at some point today. So when we're recording this, so when this goes live tomorrow on Friday the 15th, it should be live already, and then it's coming to PC December 3rd. So not too much longer of a wait for that to actually get to us here. So real exciting stuff. I'm definitely going to play it on my Xbox. I'll probably mess around on the PC. I think that Halo is the best when it's on console personally, but should see that sometime today.
Yeah, agreed. Kind of odd. Was it a leak or was it an official announcement that it's coming out today?
I think it was an official announcement. They've been putting out some like promo footage and whatnot for XO19 and just like different Game Pass ad rolls and things like that. We've actually had a couple things confirmed. This Halo thing seems to be just one part of that. Another thing that was noticed today is one of the Game Pass ad rolls is showing that Witcher 3 is coming to Game Pass, which is pretty sweet too. A little bit smaller mention there, but still worth talking about.
All right. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, XO19, expect to hear some more Xbox news throughout the day, but I'm not really expecting much from it. I don't think we're going to get huge announcements or anything. I think it's going to be a pretty tame show. Like, we'll get some Game Pass announcements and maybe new games for December, like free games, but I just don't see anything like earth-shattering.
Maybe at the most we get some teases on what some of those studios that Microsoft acquired are up to at this point, or maybe kind of their creative process, so that we can kind of get more introduced with them leading up to the next-gen launch throughout next year. But I agree, it's definitely not going to be anything ground-shattering as far as news goes.
Yeah, I wouldn't be, like, I'm sure we'll see some bleeding-edge stuff and who knows what else, but that's probably the biggest thing that I would be looking forward to. But it's just another Inside Xbox where they have way too many like developer interviews when they kind of like market it as like a big announcement thing, when at the end of the day all it is just like kind of a background thing, like, oh yeah, this is how we do this and everything, which is still cool. I just think they don't do a good job of marketing it.
They are touting this one to be a little bit more, I don't want to say newsworthy because that doesn't seem to be the right phrasing, but they are touting some kind of news coming out of here, some kind of bigger stuff, which I guess the Halo Reach stuff is relatively significant as we've been waiting on this for quite some time at this point. especially being the first entry to PC for the whole Master Chief Collection, so on and so forth. But it sounds like they may have a little more to show than usual for this kind of stuff, which obviously this is what, their second XO event since they've brought it back recently. So we're still kind of in the point where they're trying to figure out exactly what they want these to be. But they are, like I said, saying that this maybe will have something a little more substantial. So we'll see. It kicks off in a couple hours. I'm sure there'll be plenty to talk about next week. But for now, I suggest we move on.
Yeah, for sure. All right, so let's get on to our new releases of the week. Of course, the big ones for this week are Pokemon Sword and Shield coming to the Switch, and Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order coming to PS4, Xbox One, and PC. Connor, are you getting any of these?
So Pokemon, I'm going to wait on a little bit and just kind of see where it's at. Obviously, there's quite a bit of hubbub around it at the moment, so I'm not waiting for those reasons. I just don't know that I'm going to have time to play it anytime soon. But Star Wars, I am 100% in on, especially with all the hype that Star Wars has with The Mandalorian launching on Disney Plus. The more I see on that game, the more I'm convinced that this is like the Star Wars game. So yes, I'm definitely going to be playing it.
That's cool. I'm getting the double pack for Sword and Shield. Definitely Sword for me, Shield for my daughter. It just makes sense. I've never been much of a Star Wars guy, so I'm going to wait on Jedi Fallen Order. I love Respawn, though, so I imagine at some point I'm going to pick up the game and give it a try. It's just not going to be at launch here. But still, it looks good. I'm kind of excited to give it a try. We'll get more into Sword and Shield here later on in the show, but just can't really go without mentioning them. Man, there's just... This November is weird. Like, There's some releases. Like, within the next week here, our biggest releases are Just Dance 2020 and Shenmue 3 for game releases. Like, yay.
Yeah, it's nothing too crazy. Unfortunately, we've kind of hit the point where most of the big stuff that was supposed to be launching at the later half of this year just got delayed into next year. So it's a lot of stuff that we're still waiting on. So yeah, what's left is just your kind of B level games, essentially, aside from like Star Wars, Pokemon, so on and so forth. But it's Shenmue 3, like, sure, great. The first two were pretty solid for what they were, but I really don't see Shenmue 3 games. Picking up any. Did you play them?
I downloaded them on Game Pass.
Oh, so you played them recently?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't hold up. They don't hold up
at all. Oh my god!
I played them.
I was playing it and I thought it was a joke. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, this is awful.
Yeah, they definitely did not age well. Back in the day, they were pretty. I don't want to say revolutionary, but pretty significant for what they were at the time. But they certainly have not aged well. In Shenmue 3, I don't see it picking up much praise, steam, or awards at all whatsoever. So I think that'd be a quiet one that comes and goes. I will say, though, we are getting closer to the Stadia launch. That's the same day as Shenmue, which is the 19th. Well, I guess closer to the soft launch of Stadia, since they can't quite figure out how to do this. And man, the more I see, my thoughts have just not changed. I'm incredibly uneasy with Stadia.
Yeah, I just saw an IGN article while I was looking through news about all the features that won't be available at launch, and I'm like, why is this not delayed? If you're
exactly,
it was like a list of things that they promised will be available, but is not right at launch. Like, this Founders Edition does 100% just does not sound worth it. Like, I think they should have done like a free beta thing and then delayed the launch. Like,
the value proposition just isn't there. And looking at I don't know if you saw the document, but they released the full launch lineup, and it's like 7 games. Yeah, it's really lackluster stuff, and it's all kind of games of yesteryear too. Like, I think the most recent release on there is Shadowkeep, and all of Destiny 2, which comes as part of the subscription, but that's the only thing that comes as part of the subscription. The rest you have to pay for, which is, I mean, I guess if you're a casual gamer and you don't already have anything to play on, then maybe it kind of makes sense. But I don't know. It just makes me
You're not
feel
going to be a
gross.
casual gamer and be getting this though.
That's fair.
This is something that hardcore gamers are going to get mostly, at least at the beginning here. I just don't see like the random Google fan being like, "Oh yeah, now I'm into gaming."
That's fair.
And being so hard into this. Like
Yeah.
there was like Red Dead Redemption 2 on there. Cool, that just released on PC and everything. All right. There was like one exclusive game on there. I what was it called? Greed or something like that.
I don't even remember. To be honest, it's that forgettable.
Yeah, it's here, hold on. I am pulling up the games right now. All right. Shit. Only 12 games will be available on Google Stadia in time for the November 19th launch. Okay, so apparently they updated it because there's some new ones on here that I didn't see. So on release, which is November 19th, you got Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which was the like early game that they had on there. Destiny 2 Guilt is that exclusive game. Just Dance 2020, yay. Kine, I've never heard of that. Mortal Kombat 11, okay, I guess that's a good game to really like test the latency issues and everything. Red Dead Redemption 2, like I said. Samurai Showdown, Thumper, and then Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, Shadow of the Tomb Raider Definitive Edition, and Rise of the Tomb Raider. So like a third of all the games are Tomb Raider games.
Jeez, this just isn't great. And honestly, looking at this too, this to me feels like a proof of concept still. Like this doesn't even feel like they believe that this is something that's launching. It's still in its early period. It's just weird. Looking at that.
Don't
one
worry
game,
though, Connor, because by the end of the year, 14 additional titles are confirmed to be coming to it. You want to hear them?
Go for it. Let's hear it.
Attack on Titan 2, Final Battle, Darksiders Genesis, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2, Farming Simulator 19, Final Fantasy 15, Football Manager 2020, Ghost Recon Breakpoint, Grid, Metro Exodus, NBA 2K20, Rage 2, Trials Rising, Wolfenstein Youngblood, and Borderlands 3. Let me tell you, that is not a good list of games.
No, it's not.
Or what you're trying to sell.
Altogether, you've got 3 or 4 current games, so the likelihood of somebody picking this up and actually finding games that they don't already own somewhere is so slim to none. Like most of these games, you know, I've played just about every single one of these, and I feel like even your casual player has played a good majority of these. You know, maybe Mortal Kombat, Borderlands 3, you know, maybe there's a couple there that haven't been touched, but this is gross.
It's especially for what they've been trying to sell all year long. Yeah, I'm feeling very uneasy about the launch of Stadia here. Like, I just don't think that Google is doing the smart thing by releasing this. They should have announced a delay or something a while ago, I think.
Yeah, and I think we're at the point where people are kind of more accepting of delays if you can kind of prove that it's going towards driving quality. But clearly this is... I don't know that quality is the focus here.
No, it doesn't feel like it at all. But I think we've spent enough time on new releases. Connor, what have you been playing this week?
So I've been playing some stuff, just kind of catching up on a few things that I haven't touched yet. I know that we're kind of approaching the end of the year where everybody starts talking Game of the Year and things like that. So trying to catch up on a few titles that I haven't had a chance to dive into. I have been moving, so that's kind of been eating up a ton of my time. And I recently got all my setup put back together along with my television. I actually didn't even have a couch for like the first week that we lived here. So I was basically wheeling my gaming chair out to the living room and playing on that, which felt ridiculous. But that being said, I'm still kind of plunking around in Call of Duty. Still kind of just hitting it here and there and doing what I can. Multiplayer's still good, still feels pretty good. The spawns suck, of course. This seems to be a constant struggle for them, and I feel like in this one it goes back and forth. Like sometimes there are really, really good spawns, and then other times I will literally, like I was playing this morning, and I legitimately spawned right in front of an enemy with him in my crosshairs. Like I didn't even have to try. I just pulled right trigger and he was dead. It was absolutely ridiculous. And I think he was just as surprised as I was. So I'm still plunking around Call of Duty, doing my thing there. I would like to get together some people to play Spec Ops, but I've heard that's not really a great offering in this Call of Duty.
Yeah, I've been hearing that as well, but we should give it a try at some point.
Yeah, I want to just mess around with it and see what it does. As they say that it kind of continues the story a little bit. I will say though that with a lot of complaints that people had over obviously weapons, they do seem to be kind of addressing that, and more specifically the maps. The maps have been pretty rough so far, as some are relatively decent, others are really, really bad map design. But they did just drop that new map that's, gosh, I can't think of the name of saving the life of me. It's like Rise or something like that. I'll have to look it up here. But that new map is a classic 3-lane map, like you've always had in competitive shooters, and that map is great. All right. Super, super into that. So if you've been hating the map design, just not into that, they do have a playlist with got just that new map that's 24/7 right now, all kinds of different game modes on it. I do recommend that, as it makes the game feel a little bit better because it feels a little more normalized to other Call of Duties. But yeah, I mean that's kind of my thoughts on COD. I'm sure you guys have talked about it enough. Still good, still decent, still enjoying the weapon customization, and I'll probably continue playing that for a while.
That's cool. I haven't really played much Call of Duty since the first week. It's just more Call of Duty to me, and the maps just... I hate the maps in this game. I think this is some of the worst maps in the series. I haven't played that new one, mind you, but yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. It really drives down the experience of the whole game, I think. I have started up the campaign in the last few days here, and I would guess I'm about halfway in. I feel like I've been playing for quite a bit. That's pretty good. I'm pretty excited with what they've done there. And I recently... Actually, I don't know if it'll be up by the time that this is posted, but if you check out at Revx Shadows on Twitter, there should be a link up of me ranking the top 5 Call of Duty campaigns if you want to check that out. It may or may not be on there. But it's... I think the campaign's pretty good. I've heard not great things about Spec Ops, and the multiplayer is just okay to me, and that's kind of disappointing. I was hoping this would kind of get me back in the Call of Duty really hardcore, but it's just not there for me. I just can't do it right now.
Shoot House is the name of that new map. I was able to find it here, and I do recommend giving it a try, but I am interested to see what you think when you come away from that campaign at the end, as I think it does some pretty smart stuff in terms of Call of Duty campaigns that other games haven't been able to achieve, just making things matter and not really making you a kind of a god amongst men, if you will. Like you're not just mowing down entire battalions of enemies, but it makes every bullet kind of feel impactful, and I think that's a nice change of pace. So I think there's a lot of good there, a lot of bad. You know, it seems to be a little something for everybody and a little bit of nothing at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. First game I've been playing in the last week is Mario and Sonic at the Tokyo Olympics. So I borrowed this from work and gave it a try, and I've never played these games before. I've always been a huge Mario and Sonic fan, but when this was like first announced on the Wii, I was like, oh yeah, sweet, a Mario and Sonic team up game, dude, that's so awesome, I'm so excited. And then I'm like, Olympic Games? What? And so that's like always been so disappointing to me that I never gave them a try. But this game looked pretty good to me on the outside looking in. I was like, oh yeah, cool, the 2D graphics and everything. The mini games look pretty good, and it's an alright game. Like, I wouldn't say it's like game of the year potential or anything, but I enjoyed my time with it. I started playing the story mode on it. That thing is interesting. Like, I don't know why they put a story mode on here, but it is what it is. Like, Mario, Sonic, Eggman, and Bowser get sucked into this like video game that takes them to the 64 Tokyo Olympics, I guess, and that's where they play like all the 2D mini games while everyone else is like outside is like trying to figure out how to get them out of it. So you got like Tails and Luigi running around. They're like, oh no, we gotta save Sonic and Mario. What are we gonna do? And as they're walking around along, they've run into their friends. They're like, oh yeah, we'll help you, but first you have to beat us in this Olympic competition. It's like, no, this is an emergency, guys. I don't know. It's kind of ridiculous, but what do you expect from a Mario and Sonic Olympic game story? But no, overall, I think it's a pretty interesting game. I don't see myself buying it ever, but I enjoy it. That's really all I can say on it.
Yeah, I've heard that's pretty solid gameplay there as far as the mini games and stuff go. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, for sure. So every time you start up a mini game, you have a choice of choosing between motion controls or just buttons. I'm not a fan of motion controls, so I've just done button controls so far, and everything works really well. I haven't played it in dock mode or anything either. It's all been in handheld mode, but it's I would say, yeah, everything gameplay-wise is pretty up to snuff for what you really would need out of a game like this.
Yeah, I've always been interested to jump into them, and I've never had a chance to try them out. I think I kind of agree with your sentiment that it seems a very weird premise for a video game. I mean, obviously having Mario and Sonic together is kind of a no-brainer at this point, but an Olympic gathering has never seemed to be something. I don't know if it's just a failure on their part to explain what it is, but I've never been into it. But the more I see on this one, the more I feel like this might actually be kind of a fun game to pick up. The only thing, though, that I've heard as far as complaints go that kind of puts me off a little bit, and maybe you can kind of explain this a bit more, but I've heard that when it comes to playing multiplayer with friends or spending time together with other people, is there any kind of like competition or anything aside from like just each specific minigame itself? Or like, for instance, Mario Kart has their like Grand Prix and stuff where you're competing in a bunch of different races and whatnot.
Getting points and everything.
Right, exactly. And then you're kind of coming out on top at the end. Is there anything like that?
From what I saw, no, I don't think so. Like, literally all I saw was a story mode, which, like, runs you through all the mini games, and then just, like, a quick play mode where you just pick what mini games you wanted to play. There might have been something else in there, but I never gave it a try. I didn't try playing this multiplayer or anything. It was just a solo experience, and the AI was pretty easy to beat every time, so I'm not sure.
Okay, interesting. I guess something maybe to look into for it, and check it out.
All right, what else you been playing?
So my other one, I don't want to spend a ton of time on it, is I know you guys, Joel probably talked about it last time you recorded, but I am kind of plinking about in Outer Worlds and giving that a shot on Game Pass. And I'm probably, oh boy, let's say 4 or 5 hours in. So I haven't put a ton of time into it, but enough to kind of get the gist of it. And man, that game is really good. It's real smart. It does some real cool stuff. It is. I don't know why anybody would ever say it's not basically a Fallout game, because it's basically a Fallout game.
Just
in
a
space.
Smaller Fallout game.
Yeah, it's just smaller scaling. Like, you're not in giant open world scapes and whatnot. There is some openness to it, but yeah, I mean it's pretty Fallout-y, all the way down to the weightless jumping that I can't stand in Fallout and Bethesda games in general. But yeah, I mean, that game is real solid. I think that there's a lot of good stuff there. The customization on the player aspect is real good. There's a ton of stuff that you can go into, a ton of different ways that you can spec. I will say that I feel like, as far as customization, modding or crafting armor, how you can slot different mods and stuff into it, seems to kind of have no point. I don't know if you've experienced that at all, but it doesn't, like, I could do it, but I really don't feel I need to. And I think that kind of ties in with some of the difficulty issues I'm having with it, in that the game is just far too easy. Like, I feel like I'm grossly overpowered already, and I'm only level 10 at this point, and I'm just pretty much mowing anything down that I come across. I've got a minigun that just shreds stuff apart. There are grenade launchers that just, go balls to the wall nonsense with ridiculousness. And while I'm enjoying the writing, because I think the writing is definitely the best part of this game, hands down, like the companion dialogue to the companion quest to all of the different pieces where they'll have your companions comment on what you're doing, is just so smartly done. It really makes it feel like you have companions that are invested in a part of this universe. They're not just following you around and shooting things, but they're actually meaningful parts to the story, which is great. But the part I feel like is the other half of that that's not as good is the kind of gunplay overall. I just don't know if it's that dated at this point that it just doesn't feel good anymore. But the lack of any kind of real aim assist, the lack of any kind of weight behind a lot of your shots, the lack of any kind of reaction from the people and creatures that you're shooting, it just doesn't feel good anymore. And I know that's kind of the Fallout style, or I guess Bethesda style now, even though this is an Obsidian title. I just really am not a big fan of how it controls and feels in that manner, which is a bummer, because I think, like I said, the storytelling is so good.
Yeah, I talked about this the last time we recorded an episode. I had just beaten the game, and I love it. I love almost every single thing about it. I love the companions. I love the story. I love the lighthearted attitude. It's bursting with personality. I like that it's scaled down. It's not just a big world just to be big. There's a lot of good things in there. I definitely hear some of your complaints, like the gunplay and everything. It's not the greatest, but it's still better than anything Fallout has put out, I think. Like the new VATS kind of system in there is, what is it called? It's like TTD something.
Yeah, time dilation. That's what it is.
Dilation, yeah. That thing, it seems kind of like just a VATS ripoff, but it's actually pretty cool that it just slows time down, and it feels much more responsive to me than VATS ever has, where if I'm shooting someone in the face, like, they're blind. If I shoot them in the leg, they're crippled. You can shoot them in the nuts and they'll just like bend over and like hold their crotch. Like it's so funny to me. I love that kind of stuff. And also all the dialogue options in the game are great. Like I said, I talked about this quite a bit in the last episode because I really like this game, so I'm not going to go on too much here, but I really enjoy the game, and it's I'm really excited because I saw that it released to really good reviews, and it's doing commercially well as well, so I really think that there's potential for an Outer Worlds 2 at some point. I haven't heard anything on if they're doing DLC for the first game. I really hope they are because, like I said, I really enjoy this game, and I think it'd be better the sooner they get it out than later because next year is looking pretty stacked with releases, but we will see.
No, I agree, and I don't want to really diss the game because it really is solid. Like you said, the writing, the story, all of the companions, everything there is fantastic. And I agree the time dilation stuff is a way to harken back to that VATS mechanic without just being a straight ripoff. And I honestly prefer the time dilation as it doesn't just rip you from the combat and just stop everything. But it's actually keeping you invested in it the whole time, which is great. After playing so many snappy shooters nowadays, you talk your Call of Duties, your Dooms, things like that. This just feels very outdated. But that being said, I absolutely agree. This is one of this year's best release so far, and I'm very excited to see what they do. On the DLC note, just before we leave this, I did hear something that they were talking about maybe doing some DLC with the game being so popular and having so much critical acclaim at this point. I don't think they've said anything officially, but it sounds like they are at least exploring that avenue, which I think is smart because this game is sweet. It could definitely have DLC in it quite easily, and they've shown that they're capable of some pretty good, meaningful DLC. But yeah, I mean that wraps up just about what I'm playing. There are a few other games on my list. I'm kind of prepping for Star Wars though at this point, so that'll be my next big one that I'm hitting and playing. So I'm sure we'll talk about that next week. From there, what is the last thing you're playing?
All right, so yeah, I've kind of just been in limbo at the moment, kind of waiting for Pokemon to come out. I've been meaning to play After Party. I keep saying I'm gonna do it, and because I really loved Oxenfree, and I've been really excited for After Party, but I've just kind of been waiting to be in that mindset to play just After Party. But so what I've kind of been doing is I've gone back to Overwatch. I've got some coworkers that I've been playing with lately, and I'm having a lot of fun with the game again. There hasn't been like any huge changes since the roll queue came out, but since we didn't record last week, Overwatch 2 was announced officially and everything, and I'm super excited for that. I think the game looks great. I know there's a lot of like complaints that, oh, it's Overwatch 1.5, why does it even need a sequel? They're selling me the same game, whatever. I'm stupid excited for that game. I think it looks great, and I'm just really excited for it. Overwatch 1, I mean, we've talked about our issues with the game plenty. It still has some issues there, but man, this is still just one of the best shooter games I've ever played, and I enjoy it so much still. But that's really all I've got to say on it. It's more Overwatch. Let's move on to the news. Very, very slow week for news, especially recording right before XO19. But I wanted to just start off with the Pokemon Sword and Shield kind of reviews that have been coming out. So the reviews came out yesterday, as of when we were recording this, Wednesday. And so it's been getting very good reviews so far, I would say. On Metacritic right now, it is sitting at an 81. IGN is giving it a 9.3 out of 10. GameSpot gave it a 9 out of 10. Games Radar 4.5 out of 5. Game Informer 8.75 out of 10. Like just across the board, very good reviews for the game critically. But with that, there has been some, I don't know, fan backlash
Incredible
going around.
unrest.
Yeah, so this all stems from at E3 this year, one of the directors, I think, one of the guys with the game said that they had to cut a lot of the national Pokemon decks because they couldn't make all these brand new models and animations, and everyone's a little ticked off that seems to be a lie at the moment. Like I recently watched a video by Arlo yesterday that I guess someone like data mined the models for all the Pokemon in this game, and it's like exactly the same models that they've been using for like Sun and Moon and everything. And if you just look at the animations and the battles and everything, it's pretty basic with what they've done before. So everyone's going on this whole huge hashtag Game Freak lied thing. I don't know where I stand on this yet, because like part of me is like, yeah, that's not cool that they like openly lied about it and everything, but another part of me is kind of like, whatever, I don't really care. Like, I just want to play the game, and I don't really care that, Yeah, I'm kind of disappointed some of my favorite Pokemon aren't going to return in the game, but like this was going to happen sooner or later. They can't just keep adding every single Pokemon and bring them back every single time as they make more games. Like, what are they at now? Probably almost 900 Pokemon? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, yeah, they're kind of going back on the whole gotta catch 'em all thing, but like the fan backlash here has been just absolutely ridiculous. You would think that Game Freak just came out and like insulted everyone's mothers or something. Like it's been ridiculous going on Twitter and just seeing all the backlash for that. So yeah, there's all these positive reviews. IGN's Casey DeFreitas is like, hey, yeah, this is the best Pokemon in the series. Like, let me find the quote here. Pokemon Sword and Shield are the best games in the series, streamlining its most tedious traditions without losing any of the charm. Like, that's like really glowing praise for the game and everything, but everyone sees that and they're accusing all of these reviewers of being paid off by Game Freak and everything. It's absolutely ridiculous. Like, guys, it's just a good game. It's a good Pokemon game. Like chill out, give the game a try. Like you got all these people talking about boycotting the game and everything, and oh yeah, this is not my Pokemon and everything. It's been absolutely ridiculous. What have you seen on this issue?
Yeah, I mean, people are pretty incredibly bent out of shape on this, and I think I have a little bit more, I guess, defined feelings on this than it sounds like you do at this point. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing is people are just kind of ripping into Game Freak at this point. And, you know, that hashtag you said, Game Freak lied, is all over the place. If you search it on Twitter, it is, you know, you're going to find thousands of posts at this point. And it's even bigger when you get into like Japanese social media. You know, if you kind of dive into there and start getting some translations on things, they are just losing their minds over this game. There's the criticizing over the reused models, there's reused assets, the fact that Pokemon are being removed, and one of the big things that a lot of the fans seem to keep going back on is, or going back to rather, is saying how Game Freak said that part of the reason that all of the Pokemon aren't there was so that they could create better animations and give better models and whatnot to the Pokemon that are in the game. That being said, I think I absolutely agree with you that we're at the point where there's no way reasonably that there should be 890 Pokemon in every game. I understand the outcry. I understand that people have grown up with these Pokemon, but if you want a quality game, there has to be a cutoff somewhere. You can't pour all of that development time into these games, especially when these games are, for so long, they seem to be on a 2 or 3 year release period at the longest. You know, they are churning these games out very, very quickly, and I think that you have to draw that line at some point, like you said, for sanity's sake more than anything else. That being said, on the other side of that coin, I think that Game Freak deserves a little more respect than this.
Oh yeah, 100%.
You know,
I think the same thing. Yeah,
they are a very talented team of individuals that has been churning out some of the best video games for decades at this point. I mean, you look back and think about Pokemon, and the reason people are so mad is because they love Pokemon. Pokemon is a phenomenon. It is like one of the big, it was Fortnite before Fortnite was Fortnite, you know? Like, Pokemon is the original at this point, and I think that these guys deserve a little more respect. I don't think that we should be calling them out like this, especially when you start getting into, you know, people leaving death threats or whatever the case may be. That's a whole nother shtick aside, but these people don't deserve this, number one. No. Number two, that being said, without seeing the games, like, how can you criticize them to this level? I just don't understand it. And I understand there's all these reviews coming out and whatnot, favorable reviews, and a lot of rumors of them being paid off or, you know, whatever the case may be. In any case, this kind of follows the same methodology that any game should have. Wait and see it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't just take anybody's word about anything. Because, of course, some games are for some people, some games are for other people. You're not going to like everything that's out there, and maybe this Pokemon game isn't for you. That doesn't mean that the developers suck or they're bad or whatever the case may be. It just means that you don't like this Pokemon game. And this has kind of gotten to a very childish rhetoric sort of level. And I think at this point, it's really just causing more issues than it's solving, which is unfortunate. But that being said, yes, there's all this fervor, all this crazy stuff going on with it. People are being ridiculous and childish about it. But at the end of the day, if it's a good Pokemon game, fuck it, cut all the Pokemon. I don't care.
Yeah, I think they could really just save themselves the headache if they were just like, yeah, in this region, these Pokemon, they don't live here. Like, just normal Pokemon or normal animals don't live in every region of the world. Like, they could just be like, hey, yeah, this section of the world, this execute doesn't live here because it's too cold or something. Like, I don't know. They could save a lot of issue there. But I think, like, the biggest thing with them, with all this backlash is that the game is on a home console now for the first time, and I think people were expecting like Breath of the Wild, like reimagining of the series.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the day, this is just another Pokemon game. Like, I look at it and I'm like, oh yeah, that's Pokemon. It's the same formula that they've always done. There's not much different there. There's definitely some noticeable differences, but like, at the end of the day, you look at this and you're like, oh yeah, it's another Pokemon game. And people are just freaking out about that, I think. I think so. I've been kind of wondering since they announced that it was like a Sword and Shield like double pack thing. I've kind of been wondering how long they're going to keep getting away with selling the same game over multiple copies. Like, it made sense when they were doing this on the Game Boy and everything. Like, okay, trading and everything, like really trying to sell off that thing, and it worked great. And they've just never gone away from that. I'm not sure if that model works anymore, especially on a home console. I know the Switch is portable and everything, but like, every time I think about this, I'm just like I'm getting the double pack, but I'm paying $120 for two versions of essentially the same game with minimal differences. Like, there's different Pokemon in there in different gyms, and that's like it. I think I don't know. I'm not too sure where I land on this subject yet, but I think Game Freak needs to really explore like changing up the like selling of the game, like going forward. Like, let's say in a year they announce Pokemon Gun is coming out, like they've done in the past, where it's just the same game but like a different legendary and like minimal changes. I'm not sure they can get away with doing that this generation. Like, I think that's something that they definitely need to skip this time.
That being said, too, like, what this really feels like when you kind of distill it down is fans that are not okay with letting go of all of the things that they've gotten before, and a game company who either is almost being controlled by that aspect to the point where they don't feel safe making bets or taking chances, taking risks with the franchise or the formula, or they just are safe and comfortable in keeping it the same way that it's always been. It kind of feels like there's a bit of a duality here where, with all this fan outrage, maybe this pushes them more into a corner, and we really don't get anything inventive. And the people that are asking for some kind of high level reimagining of Pokemon, a la Breath of the Wild, just aren't going to get anything like that this way. That's not how this happens. You have to support the developer and give your constructive feedback, but don't be negative with it. Don't beat them over the head with your feedback. That's not the way that those things happen. And so I don't know, where that line needs to be redrawn. But that kind of feels like where we're at right now, and I don't think that we get anything, especially with the way this is going. I mean, clearly they tried to do some things here, and people are pissed about the whole thing. I don't know that we get that Breath of the Wild Pokemon.
Yeah, I don't either. But we'll see. I'm still super excited to play the games tonight and going into the weekend. I'm sure we'll be talking about that in Star Wars over the next week, so be sure to stay tuned for that. Moving on to a little more positive news, I think. The Sonic the Hedgehog movie got a new trailer showing off the new design and everything. And obviously we can't show that here because audio podcast, but Connor, I'll let you go first. What do you think of the trailer and the new design for Sonic?
So I'll start with the trailer and say that the trailer, I think, is so much better than the first trailer they put out with the old design. Not because of the new redesign, but it just shows a little bit more of what's going on, and it looks like a much more acceptable movie.
For sure.
The story seems to be more cohesive. It seems like there's some cool stuff going on. There's some things there for the fans, and it actually has me genuinely interested, redesign aside, in seeing this movie. That being said, the redesign, holy cow, this is like, thank you whoever did this, because this looks so much better than that atrocious, disgusting, volatile masterpiece that the old one was. And I think that I just can't believe they listened. I can't believe that a company actually took the feedback on this and said, okay, you're right, this does look like a monstrosity, we're going to change it. And then we came out of the other side with a way better redesign. It's fantastic. It looks cartoony, looks fun, looks very video gamey, and I'm into it.
Yeah. Crap, I can't remember his name, but one of the guys that they brought in to lead the redesign of Sonic in here, he was actually the guy that did the cutscenes in Sonic Mania, like the animated cutscenes and everything. With like him, Tails, and Knuckles like running around the area and with the music playing. It was
Tyson Hesse.
That's it. Dude did an exceptional job in Sonic Mania, and obviously just did an exceptional job here redesigning this. Sonic looks like Sonic, and like that's all you needed. I don't get how anyone at Paramount went to a board. They had to have gone through all these different designs. The one that they have right now had to have been on the board as well, and they're like, you know what? Sonic needs to be more realistic. Let's make him look like an actual hedgehog a little more. Like, who in their right mind does that? Like, it's a monstrosity, especially looking at like comparisons between the two models. This new one is just so far and above that last one in every single way. I just can't believe it. As a guy that's been like a lifelong Sonic the Hedgehog fan, like I'm very happy. Before I was looking at it, and I completely agree with you. This trailer, outside of that design, is just miles above better than that first one. The first one was like playing Gangster's Paradise and had a much more like edgy theme to it. It felt like Shadow the Hedgehog from the GameCube. You know what I mean? Where they're just like, oh yeah, let's give Shadow guns and we're going to be super serious and everything. Like, yeah, this is a dark, edgy game. This felt like, oh yeah, Sonic the Hedgehog, he's real and a little more serious. He's a little edgy and everything. And it's just like, no, that's not what we want at all. And I mean, shout out to Paramount and everything for listening and going back to work on it. At the end of the day, this shouldn't have even been a thing. Like, it just for all these people, like, for everyone that's like, oh yeah, no, don't let the crowd like dictate your vision and everything and change up your art. This was a good move, I think, because I think at the end of the day, this is going to be a better movie now than it would have been before. But you just bring up that question of like, where do you draw the line here? Like in the future with the Mario movie, if people don't like that design, are they is Illumination gonna go back and rework that? Like, that's a lot of work. Like, you gotta think Paramount had to hire a new team and everything just to get this all redesigned. They had to bring back people, spend more money, pretty much give themselves double the work and everything. Like, that's a lot of stuff to put into this, and I'm glad. I'm very happy. I'm very excited to see this movie now, but like, just at what point does it stop?
No, I agree, and there certainly is a very fine line there between the two. But at the same time, I think that there are really two things that matter here. One is just transparency. I think transparency is so important, and that ties directly into I think when you grab a property like this and you go to make something involving this property, in this case, obviously a movie, I think that you, as a creator and your team of creators and whoever's involved, have a duty to the fans to do right, or to really capture the spirit or essence of whatever property you're trying to reinvent or add into, or whatever the case may be. And so in this case, I think this is really kind of the way it should go. Like, should we have reached the point where that horrible first design even got a trailer? Probably not. But, if they came out and said, hey, this is our design for Sonic, what do you think? And I know that companies aren't ever going to hit that point, but even if there was just a little bit of transparency there, or some kind of doubt, and they did some polling, or, maybe closed market testing, or whatever the case may be, to get some thoughts on this, like, they would have saw much sooner that was unacceptable. And like I said, having a duty to the fans, I think that's Paramount here seems to kind of understand that, and I wish more companies adopted that.
Yeah, so I was watching Kind of Funny Games Daily this week, and after this came out, Imran Khan, who used to be in Game Informer, was like talking about how his sources have told him that like Paramount passed this by Sega beforehand, and Sega was just straight up like the original design. They're like, we don't like this. Like, this is not a good design, and they just went ahead with it anyway.
How do you do that?
Right?
How do you take that property to Sega, the people that owned the damn property,
and
tell them, hey, this is what we're thinking, and they say, no, gross, don't do that, but you do it anyway?
Yeah, completely asinine to me, but hey, at the end of the day, I'm glad they went back and reworked it. Trailer looks a lot better. Sonic looks a lot better. Very excited for it. All right. Time for topic of the show. Be sure to hit us up on Pixel Street, or at Pixel Street Pod on Twitter and Facebook, and let us know what you want to hear us talk about. I've been doing a bad job of posting lately, asking people for topics, but Disney Plus came out this week, and so I just want to talk about that. Connor, what are your thoughts on Disney Plus so far?
Man, it's a great offering. There's some really, really quality stuff on there for a very cheap price. I'm very excited with this streaming service. I think that I'm a little concerned having another streaming service and more stuff to watch, but value proposition alone, this is freaking awesome.
Yeah, for sure. $7 a month, you get a ton of Disney movies and shows, Marvel, National Geographic, Star Wars, Pixar, just like all bundled in there. They have some original stuff in there as well. Mandalorian comes to mind, and some Jeff Goldblum weird show. Yeah, I've been watching a ton of it lately. So when it first came out, I watched a Goofy movie in Goof Troop because I just love Goofy. And I've been watching a bit of that, watched some Rescue Rangers, just like old style cartoons that I grew up watching, like classic Mickey Mouse cartoons, Steamboat Willie, Band Concert, the one where Mickey, Donald, and Goofy are hunting ghosts. Like, man, they just have so much classic stuff on there. Like, if they put all those original Mickey Mouse, Donald, Goofy, Minnie, like all of those cartoons in there, I will be so ecstatic. but we'll see if that happens or not. I've also been finding some new stuff in there that I haven't watched before. So last night I started watching Marvel's The Runaways, which was a Hulu exclusive thing.
Yep.
And man, that show, there's only 10 episodes of it. I don't know if it's just first season and they're working on the second one or anything, but man, that show's pulled me in big time. I watched like 4 hours of it last night and I'm like, damn, I want to watch more. And it's like such a weird like Marvel thing. Like I don't even really know how to explain it besides these kids used to be friends. They kind of get back together and they find out their parents are running this cult thing and they're like trying to figure out if their parents are murderers or not. And as they're doing this, like one girl finds out that she's super strong. Another girl like turns all ultraviolet and everything when her wristband isn't on. These one parents have a velociraptor in their basement and one of the kids can talk to it and command it and everything. Like, it's so weird and everything, but God, I love it so far and I'm so into it.
Well, something that might make you happy, apparently there is a season 2 and season 3 actually drops on December 13th. So that's coming up real quick here.
All right, cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to give those a look. But yeah, if you want a recommendation on Disney Plus, there's so much there, it's kind of hard to decide what you want to watch.
I got to say that too. Their bundle offering, I don't know if you saw their bundle offering with Hulu as well, but it's and just ESPN Plus. Yeah, and ESPN, it's so ridiculously good. It's like $12 or $13 to get the ad-free version of Hulu, which is the higher tier version. ESPN Plus and Disney Plus is just such a freaking incredible combination of offerings. You got sports, you've got TV, and you've got Disney stuff. And I think my favorite thing about Disney Plus so far, to geek on the Disney a little bit, is Disney is kind of notorious for vaulting a lot of their classic movies and sealing them away so that you can't watch them, or you have to gotten a physical copy at some point in time when they were selling it before it was vaulted. And it's always been kind of this strange increased demand or artificial demand for their titles because of that. And having it all together in one place is just such an awesome, magical feeling. And to geek on Mandalorian for a second, I know that you're not a Star Wars fan, but holy shit, Mandalorian was incredible. The production quality is insane. They are clearly pouring a lot of money into this. The makeup and design was just very, very well done. And on top of all that, the ending is just, I don't want to spoil it or talk about it, but the ending was just, if you're a Star Wars fan, it's a must see. So to start off this service with that kind of offering and all of this other stuff, and pro tip, if you do have Disney Plus, when you go to search by different things, so let's say you're looking at like shows, originals, movies, make sure you filter over from the featured tab, because I made the mistake at first of only looking at that featured tab but not realizing I was on the featured tab, and I thought that was the entire offering. But scrolling over actually gives you the full list alphabetically, and there is so much stuff on there. It is insane. It is such a good offering. Even if you're going to catch a couple movies off there, I highly, highly recommend it.
Absolutely. Quick score out of 10, what would you give it?
8.5, hands down.
Yeah, I'd even go higher. I'd go 9.5. It's just below a 10. They get like all those classic cartoons on there, and then like all the MCU movies on there. It's an easy 10 for me. Like, there's just so much on there that's excellent.
There's some botched issues with some Simpsons episodes, as a lot of the Simpsons is on there, and people are kind of upset that it's only in 16:9 aspect ratio, which obviously a lot of the original episodes aired in 4:3, so squared. And it actually cuts off a lot of the show, which in a show like Simpsons, they do a lot of visual jokes. And so there's a little hubbub around that. Sounds like Disney might respond and just make them available 4:3, which if they do that and respond that quickly, then my score absolutely jumps up. So yeah, real good launch.
All right. But that does it for Pixel Street Podcast episode 82. I've been John Hansen. You can find me on Twitter at RevexShadows. Like I said earlier, be sure to look out for my top 5 Call of Duty campaigns article coming out. I've also done some other stuff recently that you can find on there. Did some Overwatch 2, what we know so far articles, and just a bunch of articles. Just check them out. Connor, where can the people find you?
The good people can find me on Twitter at TheRealBirch. That's Birch like the tree without an I. Also on Mixer under Birch, BRCH. Find me on either platform. Come hang out. I know now that I moved into the new place, I plan on streaming a lot more. I've got the webcam and everything set up. Just waiting.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I'm waiting, man. I'm going to make it happen. Work's a little crazy right now, so my schedule's a bit odd, but I actually have like a studio, which is awesome. It's one of the first times I've actually had like a studio room. And I'm excited. Yeah, coming up in the world. So join me on those platforms. We'll catch you there, and back here for Pixel Street Podcast.
All right. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Pixel Street Pod. Check out Joel at Campos63. But besides that, I think we are done. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Have a good one.
See ya.